Good Tuesday morning. It is June the 17th, 2014, and I wanted to do a video about why I created Head Injury Jane and I guess sort of what it means to me, or I'm not exactly sure. This is what I know. This is what I know for certain. um, I had the head injury last year, and it was bad, and I experienced really bad stuff in the weeks following the head injury. I was not treated appropriately. And of course, that's caused me a great deal of pain. Spiritually, it's hurt me just knowing that, if any one of his relatives, the doctor who didn't treat me, if any one of his relatives had been sitting in front of him describing what I was describing, he would have had them in at least a CAT scan, if not x-rays, if not an MRI. So I know that he did not treat me, properly, and that he did not follow the Hippocratic Oath. But besides that, and that really does bother me, because that's not right. I mean, it's just not right. I mean, so in either case, this doctor dropped the ball. Okay, whatever. That was last year. Moving forward, I was experiencing I've had high blood pressure for a really long time. And coming into this year, into 2014, I had the head injury in 2013 in August. Coming up on a year. I can't believe it. Makes me nervous when I think about it because, it's like, I don't know. There's just something about it. The way it's changed me currently, right? How it's affecting me now. It's like very traumatic. It's like, I don't know. So in either case, coming into this year, I was experiencing like extremely high blood pressure. I thought it was high blood pressure. I'm like, this must be high blood pressure. This is my high blood pressure. This is my high blood pressure. So I was really thinking that everything that I was experiencing was the blood pressure. So, I mean, I knew I had the ear ringing that never stopped since I had the concussion, or it's not a concussion at this point. It's a traumatic brain injury. I mean, anyway, so the ears always rang literally from the moment I hit my head. They never stopped. I even said it in one of the earlier videos I say earlier videos, literally the first videos that I loaded here are videos that I recorded immediately following the head injury. So they were all recorded, their prospective dates are in the description box of when the videos were recorded. And I actually talk about how you lose trains of thoughts right in the middle of everything. I talk about how I thought I hit my head that affected my ears, but not just my ears. The roof of my mouth goes numb, and my nose goes, I guess it would say my sinuses in here, like it's numb inside, and the roof of my mouth. For the longest time, I couldn't remember that was the roof of my mouth. I didn't know how to describe it. So this year, when all these things started happening, sorry, I'm jumping around. Received blood pressure medication and started taking it regularly. Very low dose blood pressure medication, by the way. So nothing, because I'd lost 70 pounds in an effort to combat the blood pressure, right? I was thinking blood pressure and pseudotumor cerebri was what I was experiencing, but I knew I was having issues with the head injury because of the ear ringing, because that never stopped, and the numbness in the face and the roof of the mouth and behind the nose, or in the nose or whatever. All those things came after the head injury. So I knew that those things were associated with the head injury. But when I was having the high blood pressure, now I know I was having headiness. Everyone describes headiness different. A gentleman in my support group, he just described his to me, not just yesterday, and he described it perfectly. He said that no doctor will understand, no one gets it, and it's true. When you say headiness and then you try to explain headiness, you just kind of sound like, I don't know what other people think, but I can tell you that it's not pleasant. I mean, for me, how I decided to describe it was like having the head injury all over. But in either case, got the blood pressure under control, and then in comes these things that I'm still experiencing that I was attributing to the blood pressure. I was like, oh, that was my blood. No, my blood pressure is perfect. I mean, I'd lost 70 pounds to combat the blood pressure, to take care of myself holistically, naturally, because I did not want to go on RX. So, but I had to, like, I was having these experiences and I thought, I'm going to die from a stroke from the blood pressure, because the headiness would come on and I was attributing the headiness to the blood pressure, and it would freak me out. The last few times it happened before I went and sought medical treatment, before I went and sought medical treatment, I thought I was dying. I mean, this was just a few months back. I was holding ice over my chest and my head and artery. You know, I was like, I'm worried, you know, that's going to, so that's when I decided, okay, I have to go to the doctor. The weight loss and everything that I've done, it's not effectively helping me. I mean, it is, but not what was happening to me, right? I was having this headiness, all these other symptoms to do with a head injury. Well, that's when, right around that time too, once I got the blood pressure under control, which was literally was within weeks, just a few weeks of taking the blood pressure, bam, it was all perfect. I was like, that's when I began to notice, because there's no other medical things that have ever impaired me. And I've been diagnosed with a number of things, but they never impaired me ever. And most people would have filed disability for the neck, the pseudotumor cerebri, or the spondylolisthesis. So these are things that I have wrong with me. I have arthritis in my neck from a reverse curve. Bones are naturally trying to fuse. It screws up my collarbone, my shoulders, everything. Skeletally speaking, I am in pain every day. Never sought treatment for it. I mean, outside of the initial diagnosis, or if it got really bad, I had treatment, but not like every day for the rest of my life. I'm going to have treatment for these ailments. I'm just going to do that. You know, I never wanted to be one of those people. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Everyone has their own way of living. I just wanted to be as much of a purist as possible. Well, after the blood pressure was under control, I started to really notice how bad my short-term memory was. And that I'd lost a few long-term memories that Anthony and I, you know, Anthony was actually the one that pointed out one that was very traumatizing to me. We've talked about it, the whisk. But I started to notice that the short-term memory was gone. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? This is not like, you know, when you have blood pressure, I now realize maybe why the doctors were looking at me like I was crazy with some of the things I was describing with the blood pressure, because maybe they were like, that's not, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't sound like blood pressure. Well, I think that's because it was not blood pressure. It was the traumatic brain injury, the head injury. So I decided that I was going to, well, at first I was like, man, that's messed up, you know, my short-term memory. I mean, I wanted to take it with a grain of salt. Now, I started having dialogues and conversations with people about it when I began to realize. I actually opened up to a girl named Rachel on my Facebook. And so when excuse me, so when I started to notice the short-term memory loss, and that there were long-term memories lost, you know, you kind of go into a bit of a shock, or it's a scare. You know, it's a scare because that's your mind. You know, your mind. We only have one mind. We only get one. And mine has been very good to me. I've had a very good, sharp mind my whole entire life, for the most part. Even regardless of where I came from and the damage that I took spiritually, you know, that's one thing. I mean, you know, I think now it's evident. I think right now, like, like how I'm weeping all the time. I mean, like yesterday was a bad day. I wept I mean, we ran errands and I picked up one of my medications. And I just we were in the restaurant and I was just weeping, like, and I was just trying to stop, and Anthony, you can tell that I mean, clearly it's wearing on me, right? Because, well, okay, let me go back to I need to stay in the injury. Okay. So I did confess to a girl, Rachel, on Facebook because I wanted to say it, because at this point I knew that the memory was in trouble, but I didn't realize what all was going on. I didn't realize that what I was experiencing before the blood pressure medication, I was going to start experiencing again. See, I thought it was the blood pressure, and I think this is where kind of all the terror and the terror, it's terrifying for me, and because it's your mind. So anyway, I was having the short term, and I told her, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's terrifying," or something like that. Like, that is very scary. And I was like, well, I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt because it is what it is. And I don't, I can't, it is what it is. And this is one of the most powerful things in life that any one of us can do when we're going through life, is we can say, well, it is what it is, and we should accept it, right? I mean, that depends. I mean, if you're being abused, I mean, that's different. But we're talking about something that basically is happening inside my head. My head, because, like, okay, when it gets, so anyway, I was like, it is what it is. So this was before the headiness and before the realizations of everything that I started to experience. See, after I got the blood pressure under control, which was just a few months ago, because this is June. Yeah. So April, right. It was in April that I started taking blood pressure medication. So April, May, June, April. Oh my God. Okay. That's another thing. You lose time. And I lose time all the time. Like, when you hear me say the other day or yesterday or I don't know when, see, that would, okay. Something that, one of the reasons that the memory and how this is so traumatizing to me is that I am someone who has had an extraordinarily good memory. I mean, people would be like, how do you remember like all these dates? I mean, for decades past, let alone a few days ago. Mm-mm. Now it's like, I think it was yesterday or the day. I don't know. I mean, because I have to, if I'm not tracking, like, I have multiple pads and everything that I'm tracking, everything with, like, in case one runs out of ink, I always have more. I don't want to have to start looking for a pen if I'm in the middle of experiencing trauma from headiness, memory loss, something that upsets me, because that's what happens. You think you have it under control. You think you're just chugging along. Well, you say under control, but that's like a limited, I want to say it's a limited concept of control. I mean, when you're experiencing these things, you're just like along for the ride. It's your head. It's your mind. You're along for the ride. So I lose time too. So yeah, that's just I've only been, okay. So that's why this, oh, right. Okay. So that's why this would all make so much sense about why I'm literally have thick tongue now and all these things. The speech is impaired. Subtly, I focus on my language anyway, always have. I've never had an accent. I've always focused on proper pronunciation. And now I'm having difficulty with that because I have thick tongue. There is hearing loss due to high frequency continual ear ringing. I mean, it never stops. Those glasses are actually, but the ear ringing never stops. Not last night, but the night before. I could not get to sleep because of it. Now, that was one of the very few times ever I've not been able to sleep because of the ear ringing. It's rare that happens. But when it does, there's this level of frustration, this level of, you can't believe it's happening to you. But so obviously there's memory loss. I'm also, my balance is not quite right. I have to, when I go down the stairs, I actually always have my arm against the wall, like my shoulder, my arm. I don't like to hold the banister. But I will, like, what I do, because it looks casual. It looks like I'm just being like a kid, like I'm just leaning against the wall and then walking down. But I actually do that for balance control just to be sure, because there is a vertigo, there is spinning that happens. I have mild twitching. Again, there's hearing loss. There's been some vision loss, and the right eye. Yeah, I don't know why I would do this too. I'll go like I'll point to my left and say right, or point to my right and say, and I'm speaking opposites, like I did a video, and I know I've talked about this, and I should upload the video, but to the head injury Jane, because I've been video blogging since 2011, and so I'm very fortunate for that, because when I hit my head, it was very natural for me to start doing the videos. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to express it. It really, they say it was like a matter of record, and I think it was, it was for me a matter of record, because when you don't have like immediate family in your life who's trying to take care of you or help you, you become your everything. And so yesterday, I had a very bad day yesterday because I was having difficulty trying to express myself to my medical offices, and it's multiple calls because there's multiple things going on. So yesterday was a very frustrating day for me, and I had, like I said, the ear ringing was pretty much out of control, and I was in a lot of pain yesterday from my neck, which is kind of unusual, but I was in a lot of pain. Now, it's because I go out into my garden and I pull weeds, and I plant things and move things around, and that clearly it hurts me. It causes me bodily pain from everything that's already going on in there. So I decided, after everything that I'm experiencing, I decided that instead of just kind of melting into this new mind of mine, this cognitively impaired, the ear ringing, the visual changes, the obviously the long term and short term memory. Well, the short term is predominant. Short term is just, and so one of the things I caught myself doing, and I is that I'm, when you're trying to communicate to like the doctors and you can't use your words, or you just feel frustrated. You want to shut down, and I want to be really careful with that. I don't want to shut down and resign from my happiness, my place in this world. I don't want to resign from that. But the head injury, it does cause you to withdraw, because you don't, it's exhausting. I was so exhausted by the time that the few errands were run, and it was just a few. And one of the, and two of them were for me, or three, I don't know. Anyway, a few errands, and then, but I was exhausted. Excuse me. I was exhausted. I mean, very exhausted. I felt like I was so mentally drained. And I just did a little bit of work, working on the tracking of the head injury. Yesterday, I reached out to the support group really heavy, because I was so just, I try, the weeping, that's just raw emotion from the realization that the new mind is potentially here to stay, or I could slide in deeper. This could get worse. And before it gets better, if it gets better, that's the part of the trauma, the part of my logic where I freak out, where I get upset, is that I recognize that I may never go back to who I was before the head injury, as far as the mind and the cognitive processes. And I mean, my God, the ear ringing, my ears ring so loud for so long sometimes that it causes pain from the extreme ear ringing. It's disorienting. It shuts you down. And when the dizziness, and let's just talk about, like, it's almost like a constant attack of one kind or another coming from the head. If I'm not in deep throes of headiness, there's just a constant ear ringing. And sometimes the ears ring so loud that there's just extreme pain down in the ear. I guess the ear canals, like it's right, and it like hurts. Like I didn't even know your ears could ring so loud that it could hurt your actual, whatever it's hurting in there. But it's just so much. Like, it's almost like a constant, just it's just a constant something or another that seems to impair you. So I really enjoy when I get to walk out into the garden and kind of check out from the head injury, so to speak. I kind of walk out there, and the only thought processes are in front of me, like, okay, that needs to be transplanted, that needs to be moved. I still have a bunch of stuff in the greenhouse that, because I've just planted so much, I still have a few things that I haven't even put in the ground that need to go in the ground. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I know what I need to get them out of the greenhouse and put them in the shade, and then make sure they receive lots of water. I don't know. Yeah. I have 3 plants that are cold crop plants, but my rapini, I don't know. I guess I'll put them in the ground. I don't know. I need to. I got to find the spot, the place for it. But, and I've lost I don't know what's going on with my right arm, but I've lost strength in my right arm and it hurts. And I had a weird bubble that I thought may have been a blood clot. It was a weird bubble. It was very, very sore, and then it burst. And then you could feel the striations in the arm, like, really strange. I even pointed it out to my doctor, and she was like, huh, that's weird. I'm like, tell me what it is. But since then, this arm, especially below the elbow down, has been very weak. And that's the thing that's very scary. I'm very worried that there's going to be a blood clot that travels. I know enough about head injuries and the fact that they can kill you 5 years later, 2 years later, 15 years later. The way the injury is, I haven't been MRI. The MRI has been approved. I need to call them and set an appointment for the MRI. I just found that out yesterday. I was so overwhelmed I couldn't even literally call them and see. Literally, I could not muster the energy to make a phone call because I'd already been on the phone for so long. That felt like forever, but it wasn't, because it was different. You're impaired. You can't think. And then, like, someone like me, I'm telling you, that arm is really hurting today. So, there's a variety of reasons I want to do Head Injury Jane. The reason I decided to do Head Injury Jane, and that is to show and share what I'm actually experiencing on a daily basis. And sometimes there'll be multiple videos daily, because it's that organic and that affecting, where every day I'm like having multitudes of things that are happening to me that are scary. And I guess the bottom line is that I'm supposed to accept them with grace. Like, there are a lot of, hey, I'm far from the first head injury person, and, but it's really, I guess, and Anthony keeps saying you need to go easy on yourself, and I've had other people just take it easy. But for me, my mind was the one last great thing that I had that could save me and turn my life around, because of where I come from. So it's very, for me, it's like everyone's like, oh, take it easy, this and that. But these people, most of them, they have wives and children and siblings, and there are husbands. I don't mean to say wives. Some of the people that I'm speaking to primarily are, but there have been women too. But the pastor, he's a deacon Patrick. He's the one who runs the site that I belong to, and so, but I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to adopt a whole new lifestyle to go easy on myself. Like, I'm going to set up a reading corner, like a very quiet reading corner, and maybe even get some noise reducing where I put them on. And well, no, that would just, nope, I'm supposed to avoid silence. The audiologist, who is completely wonderful, great information. I've been, practicing a number of things for these ailments but it's so much, you know, it is a lot. And, you know, I'm just going one by one until I understand this. There could be triggers that could trigger off the heading. There are things I have to learn. That's what I think I was about to say. There are things that I have to learn that are triggers that to control the environment, you know, so I don't trigger these things that then cause me to go down. Just, I mean, last week was one of the worst weeks of my life, outside of the fact of when I lost Beverly and Chase. It was the worst week of my life. And, you know, now that I think about something, you know, I had another YouTube channel where it was me, everyone knew it was me, and it was out there and da, da, da. You know, I pulled after the head injury, I changed so much. And I look back on it now and I'm like, wow, that was all the head injury. I had a bunch of videos. I had like almost, it's not much, but I had almost like 10,000 views. And it was just like a little side thing, but it was quite popular for the fact that I was just doing my video blogging, which then when I removed it from YouTube, it all just stayed on Facebook. For example, if you like, there's a video, I need to go put a note on it where it's like just a 25-second video, or no, it's longer than that, where, God, it feels like my tongue is so thick, but I don't think it's my tongue. I think it's my brain. You know, it's saying that the tongue is thick or making me think it's thick. I am having difficulty speaking this morning, apparently, like way more than you might realize. Oh, but most of these videos yeah, they were all done for Facebook, for my friends on Facebook. And I say friends on Facebook, very few of them I even know personally. And since the head injury, I've withdrawn because I guess I don't want to be seen as impaired, to be perfectly frank. That is the stigma I'm having difficulty with. So this is all about this head injury, Jane. It's all about this journey that I'm on that is unfolding before me. That's far more effective. I had no idea I was going to be affected. You know, I guess I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think I was going to be going through this. So I figured I would start this and we could journey on this together. So I will do plenty of videos, I believe, where I'm going to talk about coping and aromatherapy and massage and just different things that are important in learning how to cope and accept and deal. And I'm still having trouble accepting. So I'm in the new phase. I'm not here trying to say I'm one thing or the other. I'm not. I'm barely on this train right now because I'm just now really realizing how much I'm being affected. And again, I don't know how much further I'm going to be affected. So I thought, man, it's high time I make sure I start really talking about this and documenting it. I mean, I'd been talking about it, obviously, all those videos that were made, those were all made for me. Those were never made to be shown to anybody. I've never, ever would never deem any video where I'm certainly crying. I would never deem it as something that I would publish, ever. But I have decided that this is so important, this journey is so serious, that literally pride must step aside. And I must come out clean about everything that I'm experiencing and how it's affecting me. So on that note, I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to bid you a wonderful day, and take great care, and go easy on yourself if you're dealing with a head injury. Reach out, find resources. Apparently there's a whole bunch of us. It's just one of the most, I don't want to say misunderstood. It's just apparently there's no actual treatment. I mean, you can do, like if I started like shutting down, and they would probably try to get me into some type of physical therapy where I couldn't move or this or that. And I'm having issues right now with the right arm from the elbow down. I have no idea why. That worries me, right? I mean, that's new. It's a new thing. So, and I'm having some extraordinarily um, impairments in other regards. So my concern is am I sliding down something? Am I sliding down into something right now that's either going to capture and hold me there, or it's going to get worse? Like even right now, I would not be happy. If I were to stop right now, if this was to be where I stayed, I would be devastated. So, but it could be the fact that this is, and I have to learn to accept that. So you're seeing me on a really raw personal journey here. And I'm going to try to make sure that these videos are higher quality than like when I'm downstairs. When I'm downstairs doing that that's just me having a very raw moment. And it's not about if you can see me, or it's just about getting out what I'm experiencing. So I apologize for a lot of the bad quality videos. I know that doesn't make for nice viewing, but it's really more about going on the journey and sharing something that is new and terrifying. Okay. Take great care, everyone. Be safe and watch your heads. Watch your heads. And more importantly, please learn emergency first response for head injuries. It's life changing. So yeah, head injuries. You can think it's very minor, and it's not. I didn't even think mine was minor. I knew mine wasn't minor. And I still didn't expect this. I knew mine. I figured, if I survived, and I even said head injury. I've talked to a gazillion people, head injuries, they can affect you 5 years down the road. But it was almost like I was reciting facts. I didn't expect it to be affecting me. That's point blank. And I think that's why I keep crying so much. It's that it's affecting me so much. Is that, and I feel bad. It's like other people who have more serious fallout from head injuries. I have no business to be so weepy. I feel, but it's just my personal experience. I'm not trying to compare myself to anybody else, but I should be grateful that, I'm as cognizant and aware and able to work in my garden and, so I am grateful for many things, I assure you. It's just, I think, like Mary, the therapist, said, I'm grieving. I'm grieving right now. And that's appropriate. I'm grieving the old mine and not very happy about the new one. But I'm learning. I'm trying to accept it. Okay. You guys take great care. Please watch your heads and be safe out there in the big old bad world.